Hello and a good evening, and welcome to Radio Cayman's extended version of the evening news. This is your hurricane preparedness special, and I am Dion Anglin, your host for tonight. Our very first guest is Mr. Will Pano, the CEO for the Chamber of Commerce. Good evening.
Good evening.
I was just telling you how well he looks.
Oh, thank you.
He hasn't aged in a bit, and he's still doing such a fantastic job with the Chamber.
Thank you.
Yeah, congratulations on your success, of course. And we're here to talk about this hurricane that's barreling its way, in our direction, and of course, and the business side of things, the business planning side of things. So, let's start with you just sharing what you're here to, the advice that you're here to give to the people here of the Cayman Islands.
Well, obviously, preparations are vitally important before any storm. And so the business community has done a very good job, I think, in opening the stores during the holiday yesterday. And so there was a lot of rush for water and different supplies. Most of the hardware stores were open. I think a lot of the plywood was purchased yesterday and today. Yes. And now tomorrow, some of the stores will also be open for people who still need supplies. So we have Foster stores. They'll be open at 6:30 in the morning, and they'll close at 1 p.m. Cost You Less will open at 7 a.m., and they'll close at 1 p.m. We have Kirk Market. They'll open at 6:30 and close at 1 p.m. And also Hurley's will open at 7 a.m., and they'll close at 1 p.m. Uncle Bill's also will be open for people who need supplies. It'll be from 8 a.m. to 2 p.m. So again, just encourage people who were a bit nervous to go out and try to avoid some of the last-minute shoppers. This is your chance to really get the supplies you need. And regardless of the strength of the storm, it's always best to be prepared. And remember, we're just at the start of the hurricane season, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I know. It's so very early.
It's just amazing that we're experiencing a storm of this magnitude in July. So I'll leave the predictions as to how the strength of the storm to the meteorologists. But for us in the business community, we're just, again, all of the plans have been made. I know all the Bankers Association has just put out a release that the retail banks will be closed, but all the ATM machines will be stocked up and ready for people to take the cash that they need in terms of their bank of preference. And again, just encouraging people, the pharmacies will be open for those people who need their last-minute supplies. And so again, don't take anything for granted. Prepare yourself. And that's why I think the message that the National Emergency Operations Center is trying to encourage everyone to follow.
Just the fact that the streets were so busy today, they were so congested, all the supermarkets, it just shows that everyone is obeying by shopping and getting ready for this storm, this hurricane that's coming our way.
Absolutely. And also I just warn people that if you're in a low-lying area, be aware of that. You may want to move to higher ground or be with people that have homes that, may not, certainly don't flood. The storm will be coming from the south. So, again, those people that may be positioned in the southern coast, make sure you have your disaster plan ready to go. Right. It's always best to move to a location if, particularly a shelter. Some of the shelters will be open. They will be open. And so it's important that if you have any doubt about the integrity of your dwelling, that it's always best to register to go to a shelter. Right. And there'll be the shelters are well managed. There'll be plenty of water and food and supplies. Everything is in the shelter. So as I understand it, it's a quick-moving storm.
Yes.
But still, it doesn't take very long for damage to occur.
Right.
So people need to be very diligent in terms of planning ahead.
What's also amazing, Mr. Pernod, is the technology that we have now and social media to help us prepare way in advance before this storm approaches. The satellite imagery, everything that we have, it's amazing.
I've had the I'm not sure if it's the pleasure or the experience of the various storms since the 1980s. So I know everyone poses a different type of risk and threat.
Yes.
But again, those of us who experienced the storm 20 years ago know that preparation is everything.
Yeah.
Don't think that just because you experience something or you're hearing the different forecasts that maybe it won't be as strong as they expected. Like I said, make sure you have everything in place. Make sure you have enough water for the people who are in your dwelling. And again, if you have taken the necessary precautions, you're going to just be fine.
Awesome. And if you're just tuning in tonight, there's no Sports Extra tonight. This is usually my Sports Extra hour from 7 to 8. What we're doing now is having an extension of the evening news hurricane preparedness special, and we're sitting here with the CEO of the Chamber of Commerce, Mr. Will Pano. And with your expertise, can you share how can local businesses ensure continuity during and after the hurricane?
What they have to do really is they should already have a plan in place, right?
Yes.
First off, they need to secure their premises. So one of the reasons why some of the businesses are closing is that they're securing their premises,
Yes.
but more importantly, their staff. They have to make sure their staff is safe, making sure that they have taken the necessary preparations for themselves and their families. But also for some of the larger businesses, they've already staged products to come in terms of the severity of the storm.
Right.
You have to understand that thousands of people have shopped over the last few days.
Mm-hmm.
So some
Yes.
supplies for certain products probably are a bit depleted. But the large supermarkets, the hardware stores, they have a sophisticated system in place, and they're probably staging supplies, just like the infrastructure agencies, which I'll let them speak on their behalf. But all of them have their plans that they roll out, the good ones, very well. My biggest concern, obviously, is always the smaller businesses,
Right.
which represent the majority of the businesses in the
Very
Cayman
true.
Islands.
Mm-hmm.
The things I always tell them to do, and I'll say it right now on the radio, is make sure you know your insurance company.
Right.
Because if there is damage, you're going to have to get a loss adjuster in there. You're going to have to do the assessment, make sure you have your paperwork,
Right.
make sure that you know your policy as to what
Yes.
you are entitled to receive
Yes.
and what the value of your policy is. And also for those people with obviously a lot of people with cars.
Yes.
Make sure you know what your policy says and hopefully you've made sure it's up to date.
Yeah.
So that's the starting ground right there, making sure your insurance policies are up to date, which right now I think we're pretty close to the end if you haven't done that already.
Exactly. You should have had that done already a week ago. Speaking of plans, are there any resources available to guide companies in developing robust contingency plans?
Yes, the Center for Business Development that the government launched, they have a lot of helpful resources in that regard. But you can also go online. There's a lot of helpful tips right online. You just put business continuity, and there's some of the great, easy to follow business continuity plans there that can guide you.
Okay. And I'm going to move a little into more like supply chain resilience. What steps should businesses take to safeguard their supply chains?
Well, they have to make sure they have good relationships and making sure that they're paying their bills on time.
Yeah.
Because if that's the case, then their suppliers, they're a trustworthy business. And if they need help, obviously they can make those phone calls and get those supplies in when they need them. That's the key, those relationships that you have. And again, small businesses, that they have to make sure that those supplies chains are intact. And again, most of the stuff now that we have in Cayman is we have a lot of online purchasing and ordering and that type of thing.
True.
So much of our business now is done through online portals and everything else, right?
Yes.
So just bear in mind that, depending on the severity of the storm, some of those supply chains may be delayed.
Right.
Now, the larger businesses in Cayman, they have access to things that maybe the smaller businesses don't. So their supply chains are pretty solid, and they already have staged products that they're going to come in depending on obviously the conditions of our ports and our ports and airports, and hopefully, they can come back on stream very quickly.
Awesome. Thank you for that. But how can they mitigate disruptions that's caused by, let's say, transportation delays or infrastructure damage?
Yeah, well, I think that's a $1 million question. That's a hard question to answer. Obviously, precautionary measures. I mean, depending on the business that they have, if you're selling a certain type of product and you know that product there's going to be a run on it during a storm, like I said, you have to have backup supply chains to make sure, or even local relationships. Just particularly for small businesses, you can also rely on a bigger business that may have those supplies you need.
Mm-hmm. And I have different topics for you, so we're going to move right into employee safety and communication. What protocols exist for ensuring employee safety during the storm?
Well, that's the first priority of any business. You have to make sure that you have a communication tree. That could be a WhatsApp group. It could be making sure that you know where your employees are located, making sure that you know their houses are. And that's what you should be doing throughout the storm. You should be checking in on them or have them contact you if there's any emergency. And encouraging employees who may be single to actually, room with somebody else so that they're not alone during the storm.
Exactly.
That's important because it could be, you want to make sure somebody knows where you are. But again, employee safety is the number one thing for all employers because when we do reopen, we want to make sure that those businesses can get back up and running.
Awesome. Mr. Perneau, what financial measures can businesses implement to weather the storm's impact?
Well, that's a relationship that they have to have with their banks, right? Hopefully they have maybe some reserves, but if not, that's a relationship they have with their bank. Or like I said earlier, they have insurance policies, which if there is some damage or whatever happens as a result of the storm, they can immediately put some claims in and they can get the money they need. But again, it's also with your banker, making sure that if you need a loan to get you back up and running, that you have a good relationship, and that's been something that you've discussed even prior to the storm or any storm.
And we were discussing insurance earlier, and now that we're into financial preparedness, is there guidance on insurance coverage, emergency funds, and accessing relief programs?
Well, right now I'm not sure about the relief programs yet because obviously we have to make sure hopefully there won't be a need for those relief programs, but if there are, certainly the government would have something in place, which I can't speak on their behalf. But again, back to small businesses will have those relationships. And again, hopefully they're insured for whatever they do, and also they have maybe some reserve funds to kind of boost or to inject into their business if they need it.
Yeah, that was going to be my next question about funds. How much cash do you think people need on hand during this time, based on our experience 20 years ago?
Well, you think about it. So depending on the nature of the storm, you're going to need groceries.
Yeah.
You're going to need some basic supplies. I would have thought somebody should at least could do $300 to $600 or something to get out of there. I certainly did that for my family. I made sure I had some cash. I have some cash just in case those debit machines are not working.
Right, definitely. And how can businesses protect physical assets such as storefronts, equipment, and inventory?
Well, a lot of that comes down, again, preparation prior to the storm, but the hurricane shutters, making sure that your computer, one of the most important assets in any business now these days is your computer system.
Right.
So make sure it's not on the floor in a flooded area, in an area that floods, for example. Make sure your server, if you have a server, make sure that you can get access to it and remove it from the property if you believe it may be impacted. The other thing is make sure that your business is actually on the cloud. If I look at the Chamber of Commerce, for example, we can operate anywhere because most of our stuff that we do is all positioned in the cloud. So wherever we are, wherever our disaster recovery location is, with a laptop, we're in business.
Right.
So a lot of businesses are like that now too, and they have disaster recovery sites
Right.
where if anything was to happen to their business, they would at least
Physically.
be physically, they could be
Yeah.
back up and running.
Awesome. I like that. And are there any recommendations for securing premises against wind, water, and, of course, debris damage?
Well, a lot of that has to do, again, with shuttering, making sure you have proper plywood
Yeah.
placements if you don't have shutters. And again, I think the government had done a good job in providing sandbags for people in
Yes.
low-lying areas, right? So all of that affects businesses too, because there are businesses in low-lying areas. And making sure your inventory, again, if you know what area floods, make sure that you raise everything off the floor to make sure it's not damaged.
Awesome. And what about post-hurricane recovery strategies? What support will the Chamber provide to businesses during the recovery phase?
One of the first things that we do is get the word out. One of our main messages is we want our businesses to call us if they have any special hours. We'll come on the radio. We'll kind of promote them like I'm doing right now to get the customers back into their premises, because the worst thing after any storm is, where are the customers, right? So you want to make sure they get the customers to know that those products and services are now available again. And the other thing that we do is we will, as we've done in the past, if depending on the severity of the storm, host kind of webinars and other things to help businesses with answering some of the basic questions. Probably the top question after a storm, I need a loss adjuster. I need somebody to come in and assess any damage that's been caused either to my business or my property. So we always work with the Cayman Insurance Association to provide information that's helpful.
Awesome. And how can companies adapt and rebuild after the storm passes?
Again, a lot of that has to do with the supply chains and making sure that they have already put in place relationships with contractors. So some of the most popular people after any storm that creates damage is the contractor.
Right.
And again, why I say make sure that you're working with a reputable contractor, because after any storm, you have to be careful, because you're actually going to give some of your insurance money or your own money to either repair your roof or any of the other damage that may be caused. And you have to have somewhat of a trusting relationship, and that you know the quality of their work and they're a reputable company, because obviously during that time there's a lot of demand.
What are some of the worst situations you've been faced with? I would say probably Ivan, since that's the worst.
It really was. One of my fondest memories is with my son being about 9 years old at the time, just walking down Walker's Road and realizing that, the old Hurley's was badly damaged there, right? Yes. But the owners were very gracious, and I tried to help them as much as I could, and they were awesome. They allowed me to go and get some supplies that we needed for a family, and I actually went back and I helped Hurley's during that time transport some of the frozen goods from one freezer to the store that was in the center of the island. So it was a time where I think we all came together as a community, and that's one of my fondest memories, is where I got to meet so many different types of people, and we all knew we suffered something traumatic, but we all came together in the recovery.
And that's the thing. We need to do the same for this time. Help your neighbor, help a friend, help someone, because some people they cannot get to that. Right. They're not in the same position you are.
And don't shoulder the load alone. It's a lot of people are stressed during this period. Mental wellness is so important during this time. And I know if you're struggling, there is a mental wellness line that you can call. I mean, don't shoulder this storm alone. Make sure that you you have almost like a buddy or so to kind of call and speak, family members or friends. It's so important during this time. No one wants to go through the storm alone.
Awesome. Thank you. And if you're just tuning in, we're speaking with the Chamber of Commerce CEO, Mr. Will Pano, and we're touching a little bit on, business and continuity plans, supply chain resilience, community support and collaboration is another one. How can businesses contribute to community relief efforts?
Well, normally after every storm, there's kind of an outreach effort to raise funds for different causes. And I know there is a recovery fund already in place. So right away, that's a fund that could be supported almost immediately. If you remember, after the last storm that we had, that a structure was formulated, and they actually provide funding for different things in our community.
Right.
There's also the service clubs. Many of the service clubs can be called upon for doing various things, from helping with cleanups to different activities,
right,
and also helping with different community outreach.
Awesome. And are there opportunities for collaboration with other organizations and government agencies?
Absolutely. I mean, that's what I think the National Emergency Operations Center is almost about. It's all about the collaboration with all the government agencies working together on a common purpose. And that's what makes it so remarkable. And again, it's well structured, it's well organized, and we are very much prepared compared to what we were 20 years ago.
Mr. Pano, thank you so much for your time. I
Thank
appreciate you.
It's great seeing you again.
It's great seeing you too. And remember, collaboration and preparedness are essential for minimizing the hurricane's impact on our local community, or local economy, I should say. And the mental health number, if in case anyone needs it, it's 1-800-534-6463. We're going to take a short break. We'll be right back right after this.
A caring and community spirit, cherished family and cultural values. These are some of the things that still embodies the Caymanian way of life in the Eastern Districts today. Savannah Pharmacy, your neighborhood pharmacy, located in Countryside Shopping Village, is delighted to offer products and services of real value. Whether it's catering to your family's medical needs or carrying apparel, gifts, and beauty products, Savannah Pharmacy provides you with more than just prescriptions. Remember, they're always just around the corner with everything your family needs and convenient opening hours, including Sundays and holidays. Savannah Pharmacy. For more information, call 946-3336.
Prescription refills made easy at Savannah Pharmacy. WhatsApp your prescription refills to 929-5045.
Do you know that conditions may change suddenly in an emergency and you may have to leave at a moment's notice? When a hurricane threatens, you should have a grab-and-go survival kit. This kit should include your personal identification and other vital documents, which should be sealed in a watertight pouch or container. For more tips and information, visit the Hazard Management Cayman Islands office or caymanprepared.ky. This hurricane tip is brought to you by Hazard Management Cayman Islands and Radio Cayman 89.9 FM.
Follow Radio Social media, X, formerly Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. Interact with our talk shows on YouTube. Download our official Radio Cayman app, or you can log on to our website, www.radiocayman.gov.ky. You can also add us to WhatsApp
on 925-3261.
All the latest information, breaking news, community events, and more. Radio Cayman.
This is a 7 p.m. intermediary advisory on Hurricane Beryl. Hurricane Beryl is expected to bring life-threatening winds and storm surges to Jamaica on Wednesday and the Cayman Islands on Wednesday night and Thursday. It is presently located at 16.1 north, 71.7 west. That is 360 miles to the east-southeast of Kingston, Jamaica. Maximum sustained winds are 150 miles per hour. It is still moving on a direction of west-northwest, 290 degrees on the compass, and still maintaining the 22 mile per hour speed. The pressure has risen a little bit to 963 millibars. Once again, the government of Mexico has issued a hurricane watch for the east coast of the Yucatan Peninsula. The government of Belize has also issued a tropical storm watch for Belize, and Jamaica and Cayman, including Little Cayman and Cayman Brac, are all under hurricane warning at this time. Once again, the center of Hurricane Beryl was located near latitude 16.1 north, longitude 71.7 west, Beryl is moving towards the west-northwest near 22 miles per hour. This general motion is expected to continue through Wednesday, followed by a turn towards the west Wednesday night or Thursday. On the forecast track, the center of Beryl will move rapidly across the central Caribbean Sea tonight and is forecast to pass near or over Jamaica on Wednesday. The center is expected to pass near or over the Cayman Islands on Wednesday night, early Thursday, and approach the Yucatan Peninsula on Thursday night. And that's the latest on Hurricane Beryl.
Emergency medical centers, also referred to as EMCs, are located at select public shelters and are used to provide medical services during a storm if necessary. They are equipped with the appropriate staffing, equipment, power sources, and medical supplies for patients in the community who need assistance. If a caregiver is needed, the caregiver from the home is expected to accompany and remain with the person at the shelter. Persons who go to the EMC should take their medication and any other required supplies with them. As a reminder, HSA facilities, including the district health centers, are not general hurricane shelters for the public. If you need shelter, please go to a district hurricane shelter.
Radio station. Radio Cayman is the voice of the Cayman Islands.
Alrighty, good evening and welcome back to our Hurricane Preparedness Special. It's an extension of our evening news, and we're sitting here with Commanding Officer for the Cayman Islands Regiment, Lieutenant Colonel Roger Carter. Good evening to you. How are you?
Good evening. I'm fine, thank you.
Thank you so much for being here. I know it's very busy for you.
Thank you for inviting me.
Of course, we want to hear what's happening on your side as well. And for those, let's start with telling us what the purpose of the regiment is. Tell us, what is it that you do for those who are unaware of what the regiment are? Because let me tell you, there are still people that are not sure.
Okay.
Yes.
So according to the law, the regiment has three main jobs. The first is the defense of the Cayman Islands.
Yes.
The second is to assist the police or Coast Guard if they request. Mm-hmm. But our main job is to deal with humanitarian assistance and disaster relief during an emergency like the one that we're currently facing.
That's approaching, definitely. And what does the regiment prepare, or how do you all prepare for a crisis of this magnitude?
Okay, so we have a set of standard operating procedures, mm-hmm. but let me begin by saying that our response or the value that we bring is based on three pillars, I like to say.
Okay.
The first is having enough well-trained people. So we spend a lot of time on training. We spend time doing urban search and rescue training. We send some of our troopers off to England to train in urban search and rescue.
Okay.
We spend time doing what we call HADR training, which is broader than urban search and rescue, deals with things like recovering vehicles, removing trees, and those kind of things. We spend a lot of time as well doing medical training.
Okay.
And casualty evacuation. So we're training several disciplines that allow us to help during an emergency. The second leg of our stool, so to speak, is the issue of having the right equipment.
Okay.
So we do have a considerable amount of equipment, things like tents, large vehicles that I'm sure people have seen driving around the Cayman Islands. Okay. To include the kinds of vehicles that we can use to rescue people.
Right.
Things like...
The water is too high.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So that's one of the things. So we buy vehicles that can afford a considerable amount of water, I think over 4 feet.
Right.
So it means that we have the ability to move in high water. And then we have rescue type equipment as well. We also carry a lot of other things like generators and air conditioning units and for the tents and mobile kitchens, mobile laundry,
right? Nice.
Those kinds of things, and water purification systems as well.
Okay, awesome. How do you deploy your staff in situations like this?
Well, so it really depends on the way the situation presents itself. Okay. But our general plan is that we recognize that in a hurricane, especially, that we might have challenges at the Savannah Gully. In terms of water coming straight across the island. So
right.
our setup, our deployment setup is based on that. So we keep one what we call a squadron on the western side of the gully, and we keep another squadron on the eastern side of the gully to ensure that we could cater for all the people here in the Cayman Islands. So they all come in, they gather together at John Gray, and then we deploy them out to various areas to ensure that they can respond quickly.
Awesome. How has last week's flooding, the little mini flooding that we had compared to what's to come, how has that prepared you guys? Especially in, because you guys were deployed during the flooding last week.
Yes, we were. Mm-hmm. So we did various tasks, and it's just part of our constant preparation.
Yes.
We train every month for events like this. We're very practiced in our standard operating procedure, so the troopers know what to do. When we call them in, we have a very small full-time staff, only 13 people. Okay. The most of our people are reservists who live in your communities.
Okay.
So they're familiar with your community and the challenges of your community, and they are part of that community. So, for us, it's a passion.
Okay.
And yes, so we come in and then we deploy to our forward operating bases, and we do missions or tasks based on the instructions we get from within the NUOC, where I think I heard your last guest say that was speaking about the coordination that we have in the NUOC.
Yes.
It's an excellent setup, and it allows us to get information quickly and to be deployed quickly to do the jobs that are most critical.
So with the last flooding, what was your mission and your task exactly?
I'm trying to remember exactly what we did. I mean, there are things that we did, I suppose, even before we got a task. I remember on my way into work, I met one of our corporals rescuing some people from floodwaters. I would have stopped and helped them out with that. And then when we did get in, we did everything, I think, from filling sandbags, assisting with sandbags, delivering them to vulnerable areas. I think that was our main task on that day. But we may have done other things that I don't quite remember now, but I remember the sandbags.
Yeah, okay, awesome. And how well prepared are our assets, including equipment, vehicles, and communication systems, to withstand the storm's impact itself?
Yeah, so one of the principles on which we operate is something called force protection.
Okay.
Which means that what we do before a storm comes is that we make sure that our people and our equipment, that those things are protected. So that we can deploy after. Because if we can't protect our own equipment and our own people, then there's nothing to deploy.
Right.
So the one of the reasons that we've chosen certain areas to pre-deploy is because those are safe areas where we know that we can preserve our capabilities so that we can have the best effect.
So we have conducted thorough inspections and maintenance.
Yes. It's an ongoing process with us.
Awesome. What are protocols or what protocols are in place to ensure the safety of our troopers during the hurricane?
So they will all be they'll either be at John Gray High School, which is a hurricane shelter.
Okay.
Or at Clifton Hunter High School, which is another hurricane shelter. So they will be in a safe place. We will look for safe places to park our vehicles to ensure that we're very mobile after. And as soon as we get the all clear, as soon as we get permission, we will be out there doing our best to assist the people who need help.
Awesome. How can the regiment collaborate with local communities to enhance preparedness and response?
So, we collaborate at many levels. And let me give you one example.
Sure.
So, I think after the 10th of June rainstorm,
yes,
it looked, I think, the following weekend that we were going to have more rain. So maybe about 7 o'clock one night, we decided, you know what, we need to fill more sandbags.
Right.
So I got on the phone and I called Red Cross. I called the director of Red Cross, John Doe, and I said, John Doe, we need some help. We don't have enough people here to fill sandbags. And within an hour or so,
yes,
quite a number of people from Red Cross appeared. And I mean, they did an awesome job. I want to congratulate them. So it's that kind of communication and cooperation.
Yes.
Among not only a member of the CERT also appeared. And I want to if you'll allow me to big up my wife, she also came out and dug dirt and filled sandbags. So, I mean, it's about community. I love Cayman Islands. Cayman Islands is a community place.
Right.
People talk about Cayman kind.
Right.
I see it every single day.
Yeah.
And I think it's that kind of attitude that helps us to really weather these kinds of storms and to be able to get through to the other side.
And it's shown more in the job that you have as well, community, the Cayman kindness.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. It is. It's an intangible, but it's a very real thing that I see here in Cayman Islands every day.
Awesome. And are there plans for community outreach and education?
We would love to be able to do that. And I'm not sure if I'm allowed to say this just yet, but certainly one of the plans that the regiment has, I think in cooperation with HMC and others, is to develop a facility where we can help teach people the skills that they need to be able to rescue themselves, to be more resilient, to be more prepared for these things. There are the certs, and I think it's now a recognized system around the world for being able to do self-help and community help. We want to be able to contribute to that. We don't want our troopers just to sit and wait for the next event. We want our troopers to have something that they can do every single day to improve our resilience here in the Cayman Islands. Because at the end of the day, the more resilient we are, is the quicker we can recover and the quicker that we can get back to our normal lives.
Awesome. And that's very true. And thank you for saying that. What arrangements have been made for supplies such as food, water, and medical resources?
In terms of the regiment specifically?
Yes.
So it's interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Every year we have an annual camp that lasts around 9 days.
Okay.
And unfortunately, every year when we have annual camp, we have some kind of event.
Okay.
Last year when I first came, in the middle of annual camp, we had the explosion where was that? I'm trying to remember the name of the place, but we had that. It's in the back of my mind. We had that explosion, if you remember it. So we were able
Newlands,
to
right? Newlands?
Right, in Newlands, thank you. We were able to deploy from camp and go straight to that.
Right.
Our annual camp was actually supposed to start next week. So we were already prepared with things like food and all of those kinds of supplies.
So every time you say every time you have a camp, something occurs.
Sadly, we may have to stop having camp.
Yeah. Yeah, you're getting practice now. Sorry, so that's what matters, right? The real thing is approaching us. What about logistical support? What arrangements have been made how will we coordinate with agencies and international partners?
So that's a bit outside of my remit.
Okay.
But I can certainly talk about logistics within the regiment.
Okay.
By and large, that's one of the things that we do. So we have the capability not only to support ourselves logistically, but also to support some of the other agencies.
Okay.
In things like setting up tents, setting up accommodation, that's one of the things that we did at Newlands, for instance. We set up tents to make the police comfortable. We set up lighting systems and all of those things to support their activities. So we're not only about supporting ourselves, we also try to support all of the other responders. Right. To make everybody's life easy and to make sure we can all do our jobs. All
right. Thank you so much for stopping by. But is there anything that I may not have asked you that you would like to get out there to the public?
Well, just to say that the regiment will be out. We will be out there doing our best. But I'd like to say to you, just remember to help your neighbor as best as you can.
Yes.
At the end of the day, in any major emergency, it's always about neighbors helping neighbors that really makes a significant difference. We will take time to get out there, but you will be there next door or wherever. So look out for your neighbor, look out for yourself, be as safe as you can, and don't forget the Almighty, who is at the end of the day
definitely
the person who we can depend on when everything else goes wrong.
Definitely. How can people get in touch with the regiment if they need help, or what do they?
Right. So the thing to do is you call into the normal 911 system, and all of those calls will eventually go to the NOC, where it will be handled and where we'll have a discussion, and then we'll decide on who does what.
Okay.
And then the regiment will get their task out of that system.
Awesome. Thank you so much. It was very nice to meet you.
It was
a
nice to
pleasure.
meet you as well, ma'am.
Thank you so much for sharing all that information. We appreciate you.
Thank you.
All right. And everyone just remember, effective communication and coordination are crucial during emergencies. So stay vigilant. Coming up next, we have the director of the Cayman Islands Red Cross we were speaking with. This is John Doe Obies here. So stay tuned. We'll be right back right after a word.
Find your dream car with a Cayman National Vehicle Loan. Enjoy 100% financing, up to 8-year repayment, and a 7% fixed interest rate for the first 5 years. For eco-friendly cars, we'll waive your commitment fee. This only applies to new vehicles. Call 949-8300 or email lending@caymannational.com today.
A caring and community spirit, cherished family and cultural values. These are some of the things that still embodies the Caymanian way of life in the Eastern Districts today. Savannah Pharmacy, your neighborhood pharmacy, located in Countryside Shopping Village, is delighted to offer products and services of real value. Whether it's catering to your family's medical needs or carrying apparel, gifts, and beauty products, Savannah Pharmacy provides you with more than just prescriptions. Remember, they're always just around the corner with everything your family needs and convenient opening hours, including Sundays and holidays. Savannah Pharmacy. For more information, call 946-3336.
Prescription refills made easy at Savannah Pharmacy. WhatsApp your prescription refills to 929-5045.
This is Eliane Powery, Miss Universe Cayman Islands 2023. I am concerned that our beloved islands are at a high risk of losing plants and animals that are only found here. Warmer temperatures, drought, and other changes are harming our unique species and the habitats they depend on. Losing biodiversity means losing the benefits that nature provides, like clean air and water. To learn more about the climate risk to our islands, visit www.gov.ky/climate change policy.
You're listening to Radio Cayman, your official radio station in the Cayman Islands. Here is the 7 p.m. update on the position of Hurricane Beryl. This is the intermediary report number 17A. It is located at 16.1 north, 71.7 west. That's 360 miles to the east-southeast of Kingston, Jamaica. Maximum sustained winds are 150 miles per hour. That puts the storm approximately 660 miles away from Grand Cayman. It is moving towards the west-northwest, 290 degrees on the compass at 22 miles per hour, and the minimum pressure is 943 millibars. Once again, the latest on the position of Hurricane Beryl, located near latitude 16.1 north, longitude 71.7 west, moving towards the west-northwest at 22 miles per hour. This general motion is expected to continue through to Wednesday, followed by a turn towards the west Wednesday night or Thursday. On the forecast track, the center of Beryl will move rapidly across the central Caribbean Sea tonight and is forecast to pass near or over Jamaica on Wednesday, and the center is expected to pass near or over the Cayman Islands on Wednesday night or early Thursday and approach the Yucatan Peninsula of Mexico on Thursday night. Once again, the storm is approximately 663 miles to the southeast of Grand Cayman and some 360 miles to the southeast of Kingston, Jamaica. And the winds have decreased just a little bit to 150 miles per hour. Still a strong and serious hurricane.
The 6:15 Weather Report, Monday through Friday, is proudly sponsored by CG Brickay. Insurance, health, pensions, life, where people come first.
Let me tell you something. I've been fishing our island since I was a boy, and it's getting harder and harder to get a good catch. Maybe it's because there are so many more people in Cayman than ever before. Maybe it's because of how the climate is changing. I don't know about that, but I do know that I want to be able to keep fishing and teach my children to fish one day as well. So it makes sense to me that we have certain areas and certain times of the year to fish for certain things. It feels unfair not to be allowed to fish where my dad had taught me to fish, but I know that being patient now means we can keep fishing for many more generations. We're all in this together, right?
For more info, download the Cayman DOE app or visit doe.ky.
Radio station. Radio Cayman. is the voice of the Cayman Islands.
Alrighty, welcome back to our Hurricane Preparedness Special. I'm not going to say Sports Extra. Sports Extra is the show that would usually be airing between 7 and 8 o'clock at this time. But we're going to do an extension of our evening news, and we have our Hurricane Preparedness Special. And if you're just tuning in, I'm Dion Anglin, and I'm here with John Doe Obi. She's the director of the Cayman Islands Red Cross. Good evening to you.
Good evening.
How are you doing?
Under the circumstances, it's been a long day, but thankful.
Yeah, and you're smiling still. Tell us why.
I'm smiling because I just came out of a meeting with our volunteers, and there were like 50 of them showed up, and I just thought, wow.
Yeah,
Actually,
amazing.
I was telling a friend, I'm like, 20 years ago, Hurricane Ivan, and 20 years later, look at these volunteers coming out. Like, how can I help? So that brings a smile to my face.
Awesome. I'm glad to hear that. I'm happy to. If you're smiling, then that means there's hope. All right. So let's jump right into it. John Doe, can you tell us what specific steps should residents take at this time to prepare their homes and families for the hurricane?
Oh, wow. I'm hoping that families...
That they already started.
I'm hoping that, as an island and as a people, we should really be taking steps like really early in the year. And we always say, start early and all that. But if you haven't, and if you're new on island, there's no need to panic. Always just go through a checklist. What would you need? Yeah. Especially if you've got children or if you're living alone and things like that. So it's quite important for you. I mean, the main thing is make sure you have water. You need to have water because the water will be turned off. And there's potable water and there's drinking water. Right. So you want to have both of that. You always encourage to fill up buckets and pots and just something. So you have that portable water to use, not to drink, but to use for maybe flushing the toilets and all of that. Right. So water is essential. And, of course, dried food and stuff like that. Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing that. And are there guidelines for assembling like emergency kits and securing essential supplies?
Well, the interesting thing about emergency kits is that it's quite personal.
Yeah.
So depending on who you are and what you need. And so we always encourage people to sit down, especially with your family. And if you've got kids, like what would you need? If you had no water or no electricity for 3 to 5 days, what would you really need? And I think that's where you sort of put your kit together.
Okay, awesome. For shelter information, how can individuals locate and access Red Cross shelters during the storm?
So the Red Cross building is one of the shelters. It's quite small, but it's in Georgetown. So for a lot of people who don't have transportation, they can come there. My understanding is that the shelters are going to be open from 9 o'clock tomorrow. Depending on the trajectory of the storm, things might change. So people really have to be listening to Radio Cayman and other medias to make sure that they know what's going on. But the shelters will be open. I think for tomorrow, there are going to be 6 shelters opening in each district. I definitely know the big ones will be John Gray High School, Clifton Hunter, West Bay Primary, of course, the Red Cross Shelter, Bordentown, and I believe one more, which I can't remember, but there's going to be a list that's going to be sent out.
Do you know what time shelters are opening yet?
They did say 9, but that was when we were monitoring the storm early on in the day. I think tomorrow they will make an announcement, but people can start getting ready today. And of course, people should be reminded when you go into a shelter, it's not a hotel.
Right.
It's not the best place to go to.
You still have to tell people that?
Yes, we do. And it's about shelter, especially for those who live in low-lying areas. I mean, we just had water 3 weeks ago. We had flooding.
Yes.
And the shelter was open, and there were people who were knee-deep in their homes. And we're talking about vulnerable senior citizens.
Yes.
So if you're out there and you know a senior citizen who needs to leave, please encourage them, help them. And if you need help helping them, please contact the Red Cross so we can help transport these people to their shelter.
Because you have those stubborn ones. How do you deal with those?
That can be challenging.
Yes.
That can be challenging. But it's about if we leave them there, then somehow they'll be calling on us or the other emergency services to come during the storm. So we really want to encourage people to start early and get them to a shelter, let them just have their space.
And John Doe, what considerations should be made for vulnerable populations, such as those with medical needs or pets?
Okay, so...
Especially the pets.
Yeah, it's quite interesting now because if you think about just maybe even like 7 years ago, we didn't have any pet-friendly shelters. So John Gray High School and Clifton Hunter are now pet-friendly.
Okay, so you can go there with your pet.
You can go there with your pets. And when we say pets, we're talking about cats and dogs only, okay?
No snakes and no crocodiles.
Yeah, we know people have all sorts of other pets, but it's just cats and dogs. You can take them there.
Parrots?
I'm not sure about Cayman parrots. I'm not quite sure.
No one talking anybody business.
Not sure about that, but definitely cats and dogs. You can take them there. And when it comes to like people with medical needs, you can. There are EMCs, which are emergency medical shelters. So you will see that. But if you go on the Cayman Prepared website, it will show all the shelters and it will tell you which one you can go to.
Awesome. And how does the Red Cross engage with local communities to enhance preparedness and response?
So we've partnered with HMCI, Hazard Management Cayman Islands, and we established these CERT teams. We've been doing this for, almost a decade.
Right.
And CERT stands for Community Emergency Response Team. So we do that training. And the whole premise of these teams, because they already know their community, and so we really urge them to look out for vulnerable people within the community. Okay. We can jump in our cars and go, but there are a lot of people who can't. Mm-hmm. And so it's about supporting your neighbors and making sure that the person on your street, if you know there's an elderly person, check on them. And if you can't help, call people who can help. Yeah.
Both the lieutenant and Mr. Pano said the same thing that you just said.
Yeah.
Helping someone in
that is what we're all about. You have to help your neighbors. Yeah.
Definitely. Are there educational resources available to help residents understand storm risks and safety measures?
Yes. Again, Hazard Management has a lot of information on their website,
so
and
back to the website.
Yeah,
yes.
Cayman Prepared will have that. Yes, definitely.
All right. And what about people who cannot access the internet? Because there are those.
That is true. I mean, normally we do awareness sessions. So unfortunately, this is storm time now. But in general, we go to the schools, we go to businesses, we go to any community that asks us to come and do a preparedness talk. Yes.
Okay. Awesome. You mentioned this just briefly before, but how closely does the Red Cross work with local authorities and other agencies during events like this?
Yeah, so the Red Cross is part of the National Emergency Operations Center. Mm-hmm. So I think we've had 2 meetings already today.
Yeah.
And we will have more meetings. And the whole mechanism is for everybody to work together. But the Red Cross sits in the Human Concerns Cluster.
Okay.
But we also chair a EST, which is called VARS, Voluntary Agency Responders.
Okay.
And this is fairly new because we haven't had a hurricane to put this into practice. But the whole premise of VARS is that there are lots of service clubs and other non-profit organizations that will be doing fantastic work within the community. So our job is to get them together and coordinate, especially when it comes to emergency response. So we might be doing this as early as Thursday evening or even Saturday. If we have to respond, we will call those members of those clubs to work with us so we can have a very coordinated response.
I think I heard you mentioned earlier that you have more volunteers this year than previous.
Yeah, I'm just saying they just always are there. That's why I was smiling. I'm like, we called a meeting. We're like, okay, guys, emergency meeting, and I think there are over 50 people. I just left them. They're still at the headquarters, cleaning up, getting cots, and they're just amazing.
Are there any specific rules or training programs available for interested individuals?
Oh, yeah. I mean, typically we do our shelter management training in the month of May.
Okay.
And there are a lot of people who are new to the island and want to get trained as shelter managers. But it's an annual thing, and we give them an update of, what needs to get done. But, yeah, shelter management is a training that anybody can take as long as they're willing to serve within a national shelter.
Awesome. How can community members, I should say, contribute to disaster relief efforts through volunteering with the Red Cross?
Well, there are 2 ways. I mean, you can be a Red Cross volunteer where you go through the actual, steps and training. And some people might not have that time because they're quite busy. But we also have emergency volunteers. So if this passes and we need support, you can come to the Red Cross. A lot of people say, well, how can I help? And we'll put you on that roster to provide help, because sometimes help just means we need 20 people to go to the airport and pick up these boxes. And anybody can do that. So once you're a willing citizen and you want to help out, you can just come through the Red Cross and we'll give you a briefing, because the last thing you want is for response not to be coordinated.
Right.
And people need to understand that if you rush somewhere where you're not needed, that might create more of a havoc or even a disaster in its own. So we always say, let's have a coordinated approach. Come to us, we'll sign you up, we might give you an ID, and we can work together to have a much better coordinated approach.
Awesome. And what about post-hurricane assistance? What services does the Red Cross provide immediately after a hurricane?
So immediately after the hurricane, we will probably still have people in our shelter. Yeah. And our shelter is one of the smaller ones, so we will probably try and get people out within the 72 hours. And then we move into post-disaster, which will probably be relief supplies.
Okay.
We currently have 9 containers filled with relief supplies in Grand Cayman and also in Cayman Brac. So emergency relief supplies will probably be the next thing we'll be doing, distribution. And then we support all the other emergency services. So if there's help needed with evacuation or damage and needs assessment or any other transporting people from different locations, we can provide that assistance as well.
What's the number for the Red Cross?
Oh, the number for the Red Cross is 949-6785. But, by that time, the phones might be ringing off the hook. I'm not quite sure. But cell phone will be... My cell phone number is 916.
Oh, you're putting it out there, okay.
45. Oh, yeah, my cell phone number has always been out there.
Okay, repeat it.
916-3345.
Okay, awesome.
Yeah. And if you want to volunteer... you can always call 925-2251. That's 925-2251, and that's the number of our volunteer manager. So we have a volunteer manager who coordinates people who want to support. And we saw this during COVID, and it worked quite well. Even though we're all locked up,
right,
we're able to deploy people. So
okay. And affected individuals and families can access any one of these numbers?
Yes, they can.
Okay.
Yes, they can. Definitely.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Okay, awesome. Is there anything else that I may not have asked you? I'd like to ask all my guests something that I may not have asked you, but you'd like to get out there to the public.
Yeah, I think, there are so many people who have never been through a storm before. So the first thing is let us help each other. And the second thing is let's look out for our seniors. And they might be sitting there, they might be confused, they might be scared, and it's our job to make sure that we provide that support. So check on a neighbor. You might not even know their name, but you remember there's an elderly person. Go reach out and then contact the Red Cross, who can then contact somebody else if we can't help. But let's make sure that we're helping each other. What has been one of the most interesting things that you've been through since working at the Red Cross? In situations like this? Been through. I think what was quite interesting for me is that when we had Hurricane Ivan, a lot of our volunteers' homes were damaged. And they said, you know what, if I go out and help, I'll feel better about the situation. Okay. So they left their homes that were damaged and they went and they helped out with relief distribution. And they just made them feel better and they forgot about their damaged homes. So for me, that's quite intriguing. And it's very uplifting, to be selfless, to help somebody else. Awesome. You want to repeat those numbers, or maybe I should, right? So 949-6785, that's the Red Cross. That's a landline. Right. And 916-3345, that's your number? Yeah, that's my cell phone number. Okay, awesome. And 925-2251 is for volunteers. So the volunteer manager. So if you want to volunteer post-disaster, you think, okay, you know what, let me help out. My house is good, and I feel I want to help out. You can always contact those numbers, and we'll put you down, and we'll tell you where you can be deployed. Awesome. And then we also have the mental health number, which is 1-800-534-6463. Yes, definitely. Yeah. Please use that. Yeah. It's very important. Yes. Yeah. Yes. Thank you so much. Oh, absolutely. It's been a pleasure. Thank you so much. Pleasure too. Yeah. Very nice to meet you. Finally. Yes. Isn't that something? It's because I'm the sports person, right? That is so true. I don't get to meet the news people. All right. Well, you take care and all the best. Thank you very much. All the best in everything that you do, especially what's to come. Yes, thank you.
All right. Any positive words before you go for the people to help relax them during this time?
Stay calm. Stay calm. We're working together.
Yeah, definitely. All right, that's it for our hurricane preparation special for tonight. To our listeners, remember to stay safe, stay informed, and look out for each other, just as you said earlier. We'll keep you updated right here on Radio Cayman as Hurricane Beryl hopefully does not approach. Thank you. Good night, and God bless.
Information, entertainment, inspiration.
Covering Grand Cayman, Little Cayman, Cayman Brac.
Since 1976 till now.
Radio Cayman in the Cayman Islands.
You're listening to Radio Cayman, your official radio station.